Go to studio again. Should wipe that shit. Peace. Welcome to Super Heru Radio. I am your host, Aseer, the Duke of Tears, along with my co-host, Selena, the Empress of 10,000 Years. All the way up. Inshallah, everybody is hearing me loud and clear. This is, November 3rd. I want to say peace and love to the ancestors and anybody that lost or had somebody that they love become an ancestor recently. We want to give love and light to that. And love and light to everybody else that's tuning in from wherever they're coming from, whether it be on this planet or the next. And inshallah, inshallah, we can all see that day. We all see that day where we can see something better than where we at, inshallah. So a lot of things going on. We get right to it. What I'd like to do to make sure everything is going through is the call-in number is 347-637-1184. Anybody, again, 347-684. Inshallah, anybody wants to call in real quick, say what's up, or ask any questions about anything that's going on, particularly in any one of the realms that we deal with here on Super Heru Radio, please feel free to do so. That way I can make sure we're being heard as loud as we can. Because for some reason the chat ain't opening up, and it's always something with these people. So inshallah, if anybody wants to do that, please do so at 347-637-1184. Okay, so a lot of things going on. One is this big situation that's brewing between the push and the move to take over aspects of the so-called African continent, so that way the powers that be will be able to launch the real offensive, which is that the Western world being against the actual, what they refer to as the Middle East, basically turning it into one big crusade between the so-called rich and the poor. I think we have a caller. Let me go to her real quick. No, that's when that comes up. It's usually called. Peace, you on Super Heru Radio? Yeah, you're right. So, inshallah, what happens with that then is this is the culmination then of the last great war that we've been talking about and have been building on for a long time. Right. That's because they're not trying to speak. Okay. So what happens is they've created a position or an instance within the geopolitical system of the so-called New World Order that has destabilized the overall plan that was initially set forth by Weishaupt and the rest of them. By Weishaupt and the rest of them people. So based on that, that has liquidated and created a situation where mass liquidation of funds has to be allocated to the actual movement. So whenever situations like that happen, they have to find a way to wage war economically. So the economic first strike was or is the Russian and Chinese bloc coming together to form a financial open finance in the destruction of Libya. That led to a free-for-all of French nationals and other people coming to perpetuate oil gain at huge deficits to the Libyan people. Because although Libya was, to them, a terrorist state, it still was one of the most technologically advanced countries in the Middle East itself. So any strike against the middle, what they refer refer to as the Middle East, what we're really saying then are the Arabized countries. Any first strike against them would have to go through Libya. They would have to get rid of Libya first. So another preemptive strike in that was the splitting of the North and the South Sudan. You know what I mean, in terms of that. But there was also benefits in that based upon the demarcation line and the destruction and the overall vanquishment of what they call the Janjaweed, which was the Western-backed rebel group, much like you have ISIS today, but a little less. No, not like ISIS, like the crazy Muslims that kidnapped all them girls in Kenya or wherever that was. That's what that whole, they was on that same level of those type of people. ISIS is a conglomeration of a think tank that came out of the Naziized Arabs that came out of the tutelage of who used to be referred to as the Imam of Berlin, who was the Jew, who was the guy who got all of the Arabs into the whole Nazi thing, and basically got all of the Muslims that existed in the Balkans and them places to adopt former Nazism with their Islam. So after the war and all that, all them people in the 50s and 60s went back to the so-called Middle East, which back then was called the Persian Gulf, and basically politicized their people to basically run against the monarchies. And this is when the countries, the democracies were brought out of the so-called Arab states, some having secular governments and then others not. You know what I'm saying? It was them, or when we say the proverbial them, we're talking about the money changers, who are the ones really making money off all the conflict. With the present situation at such a destabilized rate, what is happening then on the home front is the level of disinformation and distraction has been put up to critical. You know what I mean? So the stupider the thing is, or the more asinine or whatever the situation is, or the more violent or graphically fraudulent is what they're going to come up with. So that's where the Ebola shit is coming from. That's where Tiny with the silicone in the eyes, who went to Ebola Africa to get the damn to get the place, to get the silicone put in the eyes, like a gray, like all of that type of stuff is down with the whole. But the Tom Cruise with Lindsay Lohan, they're thrown into the mix. You know what I mean? So based on that, like I said, you have a destabilized overall situation where you had this group that had Nazi influences from the door that got picked up essentially by fragmented versions of different operatives working for different European nations, and then they helped bring down those countries and then eventually set up new dictators, and then we get to the point now where the puppets have now become the masters, in the sense that even though MI5 and CIA and them help create these ISIS people, because these are the same people they used to help set off the shit in Libya, as well as in Egypt, as well as in Syria, as well as all of these guys were essentially funded by these Western powers to help stabilize this region. And now these dudes have all gotten together. You know what I'm saying? They've all created a situation where they've all gotten together. Now they want to create their own pan-Islamic state. So they're using the term ISIS, which again is the so-called Greek, which is really Macedonian version of the deity, who is also personified as Diana. And now they're saying that they may have ties to this dude, the Bashir family, or whatever the name of the family that runs Harrods, that was Dodi Fayez and them people. Think these niggas was basically getting money, whatever. They connected somehow with the shit. Whatever it is, it don't matter. The fact now is that they are now assembling this thing under the banner of so-called fundamentalists or file under the veil then of ISIS, which is why they all wear veils, you know, in terms of what it is they're doing. You know, all the horrendous beheadings and all the shit that they allegedly are doing to people. But eventually it doesn't really matter when it comes down to the fact that all of this is being structured from a different position over here. Because over here what's happening is that the United States is getting to a point where it can no longer sustain itself in the present emergency system. So to turn everything up a notch, they're now trying to create a situation to embroil themselves further into the conflict over there. Because what's really happening is that they're carving up Africa between them, the European powers, let's say, to go against the so-called Muslims in them. But really, it's really to get at the real enemy, which is the Russians and the Chinese. You understand? And again, all these people are still working together. This don't mean that they're not all working together at the same time. That's how crazy this shit is. They're working against each other and they're working together at the same time. You know what I'm saying? They're spying on each other, but it's all about who gets caught spying, whether or not it matters or not. They're going to say whether or not people take it serious or not. So all of this is statecraft. So this whole aspect of world law has been in effect since about the last Barbary pirate fell, which was in 1908. Teddy Roosevelt and them niggas came in. So essentially, it's all a wash anyway. It's all under the guise of carving up what was left of the old Barbary or Moorish Empire, because that was the only empire that was there to sustain the United States in its infancy. And if the United States is then ruling the world based upon that agreement between the Alamatacanos, meaning the Moors that were already here, and under them there's 7,000 Caucasian slaves from the colonies or whatever, as well as the Autochthon Moors that was here, as well as the Sultan that was from over there. Half of the reason why I think none of the Moors from the over there started coming, except from the ones from Bali started coming over, was because everybody over here basically was a king. So it was seen that everybody could take care of themselves, basically. Half of the reason why people agreed to fall under the jurisdiction of the Sultan that was over there was due to the conglomeration of the Barbary states. But we existed post and pre-Barbary. You know what I'm saying? So when we talk about so-called blacks here in America, we're not talking about slaves. We're not talking about the people from children of slaves. We're talking about the remnants of the old government and the old empire that lost the war and were forced as prisoners of war to adopt the customs and ways of the conqueror. And the conqueror at that time was those so-called white Freemasons who, under them, had the so-called illiterate white, the vulgar white masses, who are now using the term white. The term white itself was only used to distinguish non-so-called melanated Europeans from real Europeans, tutored by the British in 1661 in Barbados. That's why the people in Barbados are so crazy with the British shit, because the whole white thing was first brought to them. In Barbados, like if you look Puerto Rican or like you look light skin, you white to them. Like that's how they look. So, and I'm just using that as an example of what I'm saying in terms of how the term has now been used to distinguish somebody else that really in the beginning of it was not even pertaining to them, to be reinterpreted and redistributed to other people now who were now acting as the rulers based upon the fact that the fact that they injected that into the medium of law made it then possible for them to use white to then issue colorable law. Because in colorable law, you can only be a color. You got to be black, white, Asian, which is yellow, right? Indian, which is red. Like, that's how they got this whole shit worked out. But that's a system that was based upon the destruction of the system that came before it, that laid the pathway for them to have everything that they have. That's the pyramid, the step pyramid that was on the dollar and on the Confederate money prior to the dissolution of the original Congress through Sine Die, which means that they didn't give any set date to return. And so that led to a civil situation. That led to 85 hardcore years of mental refinement and redistribution. 85 years, from 1779 to 1865, being generous. We could really say it's from 1779 to 1854 with the beginning of the Cherokee War, because that's what led to the Civil War. Since I've been talking about the book, Forgotten Cause of the Civil War, do you know that they're trying to charge almost $2,000 for that book now? When prior to me talking about it, the shit was only like $40, $30. You understand? They're trying to charge $2,000 for this book. They should be paying us money just for the fucking promotion. But that's how ill the shit is, because it really gets down to the fact that these white folk ain't never been from nowhere. They ain't never been from here or nowhere else. But this is not to diss or to shit on the white folk neither, because in the end, they still inherited something that was great, that they perverted and turned into some shit, but it still worked for them. They still at the top. Because what we have done through the various contracts and systems is ally ourselves by putting ourselves further under as citizens of the United States. Well, we were never citizens of the United States to begin with. We can't be. You can't be a citizen of the United States as a 14th Amendment citizen. You are seen as one. You are adopted as one. But you are then seen as alien to yourself. Because for you to use the 14th Amendment to justify whatever it is you are, whatever it is you're doing, that puts you then under the jurisdiction of the United States. So that was an amendment brought forth under them. You fall under the Supremacy Clause, which is the treaty clause that says that any treaty that they entered into prior to this, they got to uphold. That means that falls under the Articles of Confederation, as well as the treaties and laws set by the Heart of County, which is the Iroquois Confederacy, which is the Moors, as well as the Union of the Six Nations, which again was the Moors, which became the 5 civilized tribes, as they refer to. So it all go back to you. So that means that they got to adopt that. And that's the first 7 articles, and the Articles of Confederation basically are the first 7 articles of the Constitution of the United States. So in that, when they talk about we the people, they talk about you. They talk about us. They talk about the Americans, the Alamatacanos, the ones that was always here. But we can't be that if we're trying to be something else. So if you have chosen a different history for yourself based upon peer pressure or whatever it is they telling you you are, or they brought you from this week, then that's what you are. So if you came from a slave, then that means that you basically a slave today. So we have the right to treat you like a slave and all that, because you haven't declared as an American that you're anything else. Declare yourself to be a black national, but that's still putting yourself in a colorable situation. It's still a tenuous situation because it's not backed. Black is not necessarily backed politically in a consistent fashion. It's just not. Name one black organization today that's when I say black, I mean that's referring to themselves as black and that's using black ideology to move forward. Name one of them organizations today that has actually moved forward so many black people that we have seen an uprise and change in our overall conditions as a people. If you can show me one, I'd join it. That's not going to get us there. Hey, we are all under this jurisdiction or all under this so-called colorful title of black. I can agree with that. Whether you're declared or not, they're going to see whether that's depending upon how you carry yourself. However, with all of that aside, it's about what you do to show and prove that. So in order for you to be an American, you have to declare who you and what you are. You have to declare where you reside, where you are domicile, what your nationality is. Like, we live in a place where you go to a Chinese food restaurant, you got Mexicans making a sushi. You get what I'm saying? Like, the authenticity of things is not there anymore. So when you can authentically show and prove who you are with your right action, you have now shown and proved that you are not the mongrel or from the mongrel race that they're trying to attach you to deny you of your birthright. Look what they do with Michael Brown. Look what they do with these brothers when they shoot them on the street. The first thing they try to do is go on Facebook and look for a picture of them looking like a thug or smoking weed or smacking a bitch on the ass or something like that to discredit them and make them look like it was okay. See, he was a thug, so it's okay he shot him. Okay to kill him. It's okay to shoot him. So the life of somebody that's thugged out, sagging with a do-rag and all that may have never committed a crime in their life or whatever, that's just how they roll. Their life is less, it's worth less than somebody else. So it's messed up when you see blacks or so-called niggas dressed up on some thug shit, gold chains, all that other shit. But when Justin Bieber's doing it, when Justin Timberlake doing it, or when Robin Thicke and one of these niggas doing it, you got all the black women around them shaking their ass and all that, and it's all good, right? It's all good. But when the black man do it, he objectified. Okay. Like, that's not the white man doing that. That's black people doing that. That's the whole idea of blackness. Things are so black that you can't see. We're talking about a status. We're talking about a designation. When I'm not talking about the triple stage darkness, the eternal Nubian, Kushite, carbon. You know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about all that. I'm not talking about black in that context. In that context, we all black. Even white women on the inside of their vagina is black. So it's a triple stage darkness in that. Still, whether they're white or not, you can't get out of it. You can't close your eyes and not see black. So I understand all that. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, the political aspect of that. That's got the world looking at the black man like he's just an object. But the black woman, she's just like, you can't be a black woman in shape. You know what I'm saying? If you're a black woman in shape, then it's like, oh, you got to be stripping. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you could just be working out and shit. You know what I'm saying? That's not a stigma created. That's what a white girl could do, whatever. So a white girl could do, yoga in a bathing suit or whatever. So a good black girl doing a bathing suit. Oh, well, why are you doing it in your bathing suit? What's up? Like, shit like that be bugging me out, because then it would be the chicks that talk about that would be the same ones support other chicks that be basically butt-ass naked. But again, it's this varying, this trendy idea of what it is to so-called be black. That's the problem too, man. It's got people tripping. It's got people thinking that everybody going to look at shit the same way. Like, I don't expect that. I don't expect everybody to understand moral science or to be a moral or to want to be. That's not my problem. I don't impose this or try to force this or tell people this is the end all the bill. You do what you want to do. All I'm saying is, you still live in a geopolitical world. In a geopolitical world, you still have to have status and some sort of national character in order to stand by. Because if you rely on these niggas in their situation under their 14th Amendment citizenship, you screwed. Period. It's not because I'm saying so, because I'm thinking Morrison. No, it's because it's the truth. Even before I knew Morrison science the way I know it now, I knew that. There's something about knowing how things happen and is different than believing in how things happen. You know what I'm saying? I know Moors will have gone to jail. You know what I'm saying? But when I do the knowledge of what got them there, you see what I'm saying? It's usually doing some shit that they don't have no business doing. You don't have no business adverse in no house. You don't have no business trying to put liens on judges when you're already in jail. Like, you don't do shit like that. You know what I'm saying? If you are doing shit like that, you gotta have your shit so G'd up that you know exactly what it is you're doing. And most of these people don't, because law was taken out of the temples on purpose after the Prophet passed in 1929. And the Moorish Science Temple of America is the very first so-called organization of, or so-called Islamic organization of true Orthodox American Moorish Muslims in the world, Muslims in the world. The Ahmadiyya movement was there, but the Prophet was a part of that. He helped bring that over here. The Nation of Islam, the AAUAA, all that shit that came out of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The founder of the AAUAA, the founder of that, Elazuddin Bey. Elazuddin was named Lomax Bey under the Prophet. Therefore, if one came before and one came basically out of that, where the founder or the one who took the Nation of Islam to the highest level, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The fact that he came out of Moorish Science, some call him Moorish Science, under the name Elijah Poole or Robert Poole Bey, lets you know. And he never dissed the Prophet. But he knew the Prophet was, because he walked with the Prophet. But it was foretold for him, or it was told for him to do what he did in terms of setting up the Nation of Islam to help get niggas off drugs and create a somewhat militarized aspect of this in order to galvanize the people outside of the Christian ideology, because the Christian preachers in them were the ones that was hating on the Moorish side for the most. FBI and them didn't want Moors to get back on or whatever, but there was only but so much they could do other than watch and infiltrate. The Prophet was all wise, and in setting up the Nation of Islam, it allowed the Moorish thing to kind of go back underground, where the temples could reconfigure themselves and wait for the generation of new Moors to be born. The Moorish Science Temple of America and the Modern National Movement, okay, all of that which was housed in the old Moorish Empire, which basically means that everything that existed prior to 1492 is housed within that. So the basic aspect of the structure of the government through the divine constitution and the bylaws, the covenant with the Asiatic nation, all of that stuff is the basic aspects to get us all on the same page. That don't mean you got to stop being who you be. It just means you got to stop. They can write down what they want, but what it is you say you are and what it is show and prove that you are is on them to disprove. Determination of foreign law is always applicable to judicial notice in any form of situation you're going through. Meaning that they always have to, once you bring it up, deal with the fact that you are under a foreign power. They always got to deal with that. Their journey, how much they want to try to do whatever, they can't get around that aspect of it once you invoke it, because that is you declaring your independence from them. Therefore, that means in physical life, you're the American. You're the one putting forth the effort. You're the one breaking away from Britain in the flesh. You're, in a sense, then the Christ that's before Pilate, letting them know that you're going to let me up out of here. But it wasn't Pilate that wanted to get rid of Christ. It was the Sadducees and the Pharisees, the fake Jews, and these people that was living over the so-called Canaanites, or the so-called people posing as Hebrews, was the ones that wanted to get rid of him. Thinking like Dickens, but in the end, it's really about how you understand the events and the sequence of what part of the story you came into. So if you believe in the story that you was the slave, or you adopt the Negro history that they've given you, then that's the Negro history that then they deal with you at. That means that you pay taxes. That means you doing all of the stuff that they tell me that you got to do, how they tell you got to do it. But when you understand that you're a remnant or prisoner of war or descendant of a prisoner of war from a foreign empire, and that what you were then you are today, and you invoke that right, privilege, birthright, and inheritance in a proper fashion through the proper channels, There's no way that they can deny you. That's when you find out that most of the problems you have, or you're going to start having with people, is going to be people that look like you. They don't want a society where there's open understanding that there are actually two governments working side by side or on the same landmass. They don't want that. They want everything under one thing. But you got to understand, Washington, D.C. itself is a foreign city-state. That's like the Vatican in Rome. It's got its own thing. It's not even really a part of the whole country. They just run the country through there. But that ain't even the capital. That's the public capital. You know what I'm saying? For the public president. All of that is statecraft. And all of that statecraft that they do is based on the British model that they learned after World War II. In the bunkers and all of that, when they was hunkered up in Britain, when it was being bombed by Hitler and them. And all of that stuff they got from John D. All of the stuff that John D got, he got from John D. was the original Agent 007. People didn't know in history I was actually a real person. His name was John D. and he was her astronomer. But he also became like the head of like her black ops, or like her CIA guard or whatever. Created a space within for them to function. And John D and them got all of that from Cagliostro, who basically got all of that from Bacon, who basically got all of that from Da Vinci and other more, and so forth and so on. You see what I'm saying? Because they was all part of the whole Moorish order of the Alumbrados that was founded by those Moors who were going to put Moors back in power in Spain, but had to act as conversos, or what they call Moriscos. Spain, we also talking about the Spanish dominions over here. You see what I'm saying? That's why after the Spanish conquered the Moors over there, all of a sudden we discover America, because it was always trade between us, because we're the same people. So about North Africa, you talking about North, Central, South America. But that's hard for people who have received PhDs and shit, telling them the opposite. So, like I said, there's a lot to be said for what's happening geopolitically. It's all basically tied into the fact that the United States is being forced into a position to have to answer as to what's happening to the indigenous people here. Also, an edict just came through where the British Parliament, as well as the British Queen and King and them, have lost their power and influence over all of the masses, meaning that they no longer have the right to basically ask for that all of the dominions that were under them are now no longer under the rule of a foreign power, meaning them. You see what I'm saying? So as much as they can argue, the shit is really, really switching up. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of what, they still got a position. You know, they still got an overall position with things and with the people. So that's kind of passing away from them in a universal sense. They'll no longer be in a position to tell people what to do, which is really going to switch a lot of shit up. So look for a lot of things to start popping off out there. For those people, inshallah, I really hope everybody hearing me. But like I said, in the long run, this whole situation is basically already ordained for them to lose. You just got to survive long enough to see that day. You know what I mean? So, you know, until then, you got to do what you got to do. So in that, we're diversifying how we do that. We're eventually going to get out of this dead-end relationship with Blog Talk Radio and move. I've been saying it, but, you know, it's hard to do things when things is in motion. For people to come through, you know, where they could actually start to realize it, you know. But for anybody that's going to be in Atlanta, 8th and the 9th, I'll be out there doing a lecture and a workshop. You can hit me up at houseofl@hotmail.com for more info, or you can go to my Facebook page, Aseer Ali Cordoba. ASEERALICORDOBA. You go on there and you can see the flyer. I've been posting it almost every day, so you can check it out. But yeah, inshallah, you can come through. It'll be great. Again, that's going to be on November 8th and 9th. So it'll be great if you guys can come out. So, like I said, I'm not even going to hold it up. Like I said, if anybody wants to holler at me about nationality or tarot readings or anything like that, you could do so. Other questions, consultations, whatever it is, hit me up at houseofl@hotmail.com. That's HOUSEOFEL @hotmail.com. And we'll definitely build and, set something up. Yeah, definitely check out my Facebook page, Aseer Ali Cordoba, for the information. Let me just repeat it real quick from the actual flyer. Stuff going down, so I'm not even wasting time. I hope everything that was built on you guys heard. I really do, because I know how these people are with the sound, with the show. But the lecture in Atlanta is on November 8th and 9th, starting from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. It's at Metropolitan Lofts, which is in 675 Metropolitan Parkway, Southwest Atlanta, zip code 30310. For more information, like I said, just hit me up at houseofl@hotmail.com or go to my Facebook page for the actual flyer. If you hit me up through via email, I'll email you the actual flyer. That's where it's at and everything else. Anybody else that's heard about it, please pass the word on. We'd love to see you out there. It's one day of a lecture, and then another day we're doing a straight workshop. It should be really dope. And we're going to be in another state the next month. Inshallah, we'll put that out there. So, we went through a lot in the little time that we built tonight. Inshallah, next show we do, we can go a little longer. We're going to go longer. It's just I be trying to get as much in as possible. You know what I'm saying? Being that there'll be issues with things. So, again, hit me up at houseofl@hotmail.com. Anybody wants to send donations to the work that we're doing out here, please do so. Go to PayPal, and you can put it through dukeoftears@gmail.com. That's DUKEOFTIERS@gmail.com. All right? Love and light to you guys. Appreciate the support. Peace.